The screaming started at exactly 2:17 a.m. Not the kind of scream that fades quickly, the kind that cuts through walls, through sleep.
Through everything you thought was safe about your life. By the time Mr. Okafor reached his daughter's room, the window was open. The bed was empty, and the only person missing from the house, the woman who had lived under their roof for 7 months, eaten their food, held their children, learned every corner of their lives, was gone. Just like that. Gone. And in that moment, standing in the cold darkness of his daughter's empty room, Chidi Okafor understood something that no parent should ever have to understand. The greatest danger had never been outside the gate. It had been sleeping 3 doors down the hallway. Before we dive deeper, let us know in the comments where you're watching from. We would love to hear from you. And if you're new here, click on the subscribe button right now so you never miss any of our upcoming videos. We post every week, and you do not want to miss what is coming next. The Okafor family had everything. Not in the way people say that casually. They genuinely had everything. Chidi was a senior partner at a Lagos infrastructure firm. His wife, Adiz, ran a successful interior design consultancy from their home office. They lived in a gated estate in Lekki, in a house with white walls, a garden their children played in every evening, and a security system Chidi had paid a small fortune for. They had 2 children, Tabena, who was 9 and obsessed with football, and little Amara, who was 5 and who still ran to the front door every evening when she heard her father's car. From the outside, it was a beautiful life. But beautiful lives have one vulnerability that money cannot fix. They still need people. We need someone full-time. Adiz told Chidi one Sunday morning over breakfast. I have the Abuja project coming up. You're traveling twice a month. The nanny is only part-time, and the children need consistency. Chidi looked at his daughter, who was smearing jam on her brother's ear. All right, he said. Let's find someone. They asked a trusted colleague for a recommendation. The colleague recommended an agency. The agency sent 3 candidates. 2 were unremarkable. The third walked in on a Tuesday afternoon, sat across from Adiz in the living room, and introduced herself quietly. My name is Ngozi, she said. I have 4 years of experience. I am clean, I am private, and I do not cause problems. Adiz later told Chidi. She seemed almost too calm, too composed. But I thought, finally, someone serious. They hired her that week. Ngozi settled into the household like water, finding its level. Quietly, naturally, without disturbance. She woke before the family. She had breakfast ready before Adiz came downstairs. She ironed Chidi's shirts without being asked. She helped Tabena with his homework in the evenings, patiently, sitting beside him at the dining table while he struggled with fractions. But it was with Amara that something different happened. Little Amara, who had always been slow to warm to new people, took to Ngozi within 3 days. She started following her around the house. She called her Auntie Ngozi and demanded she be the one to tuck her in at night. Mummy, Amara said one evening, Auntie Ngozi tells the best stories. What kind of stories? Adiz asked. Stories about a girl who was lost and found her way home. It was sweet. At the time, it was sweet. Adiz began treating Ngozi less like staff and more like an extended family member. She bought her a birthday cake in March, though Ngozi had seemed almost uncomfortable with the attention, smiling tightly. Thank you, Ma, and retreating quickly to her room. Chidi noticed it. She doesn't like being celebrated, he mentioned to Adiz one night. Some people are just private, Adiz said. It's fine, but there were other things. Small things. The kind of things that only feel significant in retrospect. Ngozi never received visitors. Not once. Other domestic staff in the estate occasionally had relatives come by on weekends. Ngozi had none. When Adiz once gently asked about her family, Ngozi's face shifted, just briefly, just for a second, before she composed herself. I don't have much family, Ma. It's just me. She had no social media. When Tabena once tried to show her something funny on his tablet and asked her name to search for her, she gently said, I'm not on any of those things. I don't like the internet. And sometimes, maybe twice a month, Adiz would wake at some odd hour to use the bathroom and notice a faint light under Ngozi's door. At 2 in the morning. At 3. She thought nothing of it. She assumed Ngozi was a light sleeper. Maybe she was reading. She was not reading. The first thing that disappeared was Adi's gold bracelet. A simple piece, nothing extravagant, but sentimental. It had been a gift from her mother on her wedding day. She wore it occasionally and kept it in a small dish on her dresser. One Monday morning, it was gone. "Have you seen my bracelet?" she asked Chitty. "No. Maybe it fell somewhere." They searched. It did not turn up. 2 weeks later, 40,000 naira disappeared from the envelope Chitty kept in the wardrobe for household emergencies. He had counted it on a Friday. By Sunday, it was short. "Are you sure you counted right?" Adiz asked. "I am sure," Chitty said flatly. But then he looked at his wife, and she looked at him, and neither of them said the name that was forming in both their minds, because they couldn't say it. Not about her, not about someone the children loved, but something cold had entered the house. You could feel it in the way conversations stopped when someone walked into a room, in the way Chitty started locking the wardrobe, in the way Adiz began noticing things she had not noticed before, like the fact that Ngozi always seemed to know when deliveries were coming before anyone told her, like the fact that she always seemed to know when Chitty was traveling before Adiz had mentioned it, like the fact that Amara once said, "Auntie Ngozi said Daddy won't be home this weekend," and Adiz froze because she had only found out herself that morning. "Ngozi," Adiz said carefully, finding her in the kitchen, "how did you know my husband was traveling this weekend?" Ngozi didn't flinch. She kept stirring the pot. "I heard him on the phone yesterday." Adiz nodded slowly. "Okay." But she went to her room and sat on the edge of the bed for a long time. Then one evening, while Ngozi was bathing Amara, Adiz went to change the bed sheets in the staff quarters. She lifted the mattress to tuck in the fitted sheet and felt something underneath. She pulled out. It was a notebook, small and brown. She opened it, and her blood went cold. If you're still watching up to this point, type, "I am still here" in the comment section. Because what Adiz found in that notebook is something that will change everything you think you know about this story. The notebook was filled with writing. Dense, careful, deliberate writing. Dates, times, names, observations. It read like a log, a surveillance log. Monday, 14th. Mr. O leaves 7:15 a.m., returns 8:45 p.m. Wife works in office until 4. Children at school until 3. Wednesday, 16th. Safe is behind painting in master bedroom. Saw when Mrs. O opened it. Black Centurion safe. 4-digit code. Saturday, 19th. Mrs. O mentioned inheritance from father still in probate. Significant amount. Brother is contesting. Page after page. Month after month. Everything. Their schedules. Their finances. Their arguments. Their weaknesses. Adiz's hands were shaking so badly, she nearly dropped it. She put it back exactly as she found it. She walked to the kitchen. She poured herself a glass of water. She drank it standing at the sink, staring out the window at the garden where her children played. She called Chitty. "Come home," she said. Her voice was dangerously calm. "Come home right now. And don't say anything to Ngozi when you get here. Just come home." Chitty arrived in 40 minutes. He read the notebook in their locked bedroom while Adiz stood by the door. When he looked up, his face had changed entirely. "Who is she?" he whispered. "I don't know," Adiz said. "But she knows everything about us." They made a decision. They would not confront her. Not yet. They would investigate first. Chitty contacted a private investigator through a friend. He sent the agency name and Ngozi's photo. Then they waited, carrying the weight of what they knew, smiling at dinner, watching her serve food to their children, pretending. It was the longest 3 days of their lives. On the third day, the investigator called back. "The woman in your house," he said, "did not come from that agency. The agency has no record of her. The references she submitted were fabricated. The phone numbers lead to deadlines. And the name Ngozi is." He paused. "There is no record of her existence before 18 months ago." Chitty sat down. "What does that mean?" "It means," the investigator said slowly, "that someone built an identity from scratch. This took planning. Significant planning. This was not opportunistic. Whoever this woman is, she targeted your family specifically." The room went very quiet. "There is one more thing," the investigator said. "We ran her photo through a different system. We got a match. Her real name appears to be Chisholm Dyke. And 3 years ago, there was a civil dispute, a property case between a man named Emmanuel Dyke and a company. The company was co-founded by you, Mr. Okafor. Chitty stopped breathing. Emmanuel Dyke, the investigator continued, lost the case. He lost his land, his savings, and according to court records, he died 8 months later. Stress-related heart failure. The line was silent for a moment. The woman in your house, the investigator said quietly, is his daughter. If this story is gripping you right now, hit the like button immediately. It tells us you want more stories like this one. We pour everything into these videos, and your support means the world to us. Chitty sat in his car in the driveway for 20 minutes before he could go inside. He remembered the case. Vaguely, painfully. A land acquisition in Anambra. There had been a dispute. There had been a family claiming rights. The legal team had handled it. He had signed papers. He had not thought deeply about the faces behind those papers because he had convinced himself that business was business and the law had been followed. But somewhere, a father had lost everything, and a daughter had decided that was not the end of the story. She had found them, researched them, built a false identity, gotten herself into their home, spent 7 months learning everything. The safe, the schedules, the children's routines. What she had been planning, whether theft or something worse, they did not yet know. But that night, at 2:17 a.m., they found out. Chitty heard the scream and ran. Amara's room was empty. The window was open. He spun to the hallway and shouted for Adiz. Then he heard a sound from the staircase. He ran down. In the living room, he found Ngozi, Chisholm, standing at the front door with Amara on her hip. The child was confused, half asleep, not yet frightened. Chisholm had a bag over her shoulder. She had a phone in her hand. She turned when Chitty appeared, and for the first time in 7 months, the mask dropped completely. Her eyes were red. Her jaw was set. She looked like someone who had been carrying something unbearably heavy for a very long time. "Put my daughter down," Chitty said. His voice was barely above a whisper. "I wasn't taking her," Chisholm said. Her voice cracked. "I heard her cry out in her sleep. I picked her up. I was going to leave. I was just going to leave." "Put her down," Adiz said from behind Chitty. Chisholm placed Amara gently on the sofa. Amara blinked at her, confused. "Ani Ngozi," she murmured. Chisholm looked at the child for a long moment. Then she looked at Chitty. "Your company took my father's land," she said. "He built that land for 30 years. He had papers. He had proof. And your lawyers tore it apart in court. He died ashamed. He died with nothing." Her voice broke on the last word. "I came here to take something back. I don't even know what. I thought I knew what I was doing. I thought I could be cold enough to do it." She stopped. "But I couldn't," she said, and her voice dropped to almost nothing. "Because of her." She looked at Amara. "She kept reminding me of myself. When I was small, before everything fell apart." The room was completely silent. Chisholm was turned over to the police that night. She confessed fully. There were no accomplices. The plan had been hers alone. Years in the making, a slow burn of grief and rage that had finally taken shape. She had intended to empty the safe, gather enough evidence to expose what she believed was corruption in the original land case, and disappear. She had not intended to hurt anyone. She had not been able to go through with it anyway. In the weeks that followed, Chitty hired a lawyer, not to prosecute, but to investigate. What he found was uncomfortable. The land case had been handled aggressively. There were questions about the documentation that had been presented in court. Emmanuel Dyke had not been a fraudster. He had been a man who could not afford better lawyers. Chitty spent a long time with that knowledge. Some nights he sat with it until very late. Adiz watched him and did not push. She understood that there are reckonings that only the person who needs them can do. Eventually, Chitty made contact with a community organization in the village where Emmanuel Dyke had lived. He made a contribution to the family. He did not call it compensation. He did not call it anything. He just did it. Adiz held her daughter a little tighter for months afterward. Tabena, who was old enough to sense that something significant had happened, but not old enough to fully understand it, became quieter, more observant. They never hired live-in help again, not out of bitterness, but out of a new understanding. that trust extended carelessly is not generosity. It is exposure. And that wisdom is not the enemy of kindness. It is what makes kindness sustainable. Chitty said something to Adiz one evening, standing in the garden while the children played in the last light of the afternoon. We were so focused on building this life, he said, that we forgot to pay attention to the lives we were stepping on to build it. Adiz was quiet for a moment, and she was so focused on revenge, she said, that she almost lost the only good thing she had left inside herself. They stood there together, watching their children, letting the silence hold everything that words could not. Sometimes the greatest threats do not come from strangers outside the gate. They come from the people we welcome inside. But sometimes, if we are honest, the danger did not begin with them. Sometimes it began with us. Trust is one of the most valuable gifts we can give another human being. But trust without wisdom is an open door. And success without conscience is a house built on ground that other people still mourn. Be careful who you let in. But also, be careful who you pushed out to get where you are. Because sometimes, years later, they come back. Not always as enemies. Sometimes as mirrors. Clapperboard CTA 4 end screen. What would you have done if you were in Mr. Okafor's position? Could you have found compassion for someone who entered your home with a plan to destroy you? Leave your thoughts in the comments below. We read every single one. If this story moved you, share it with someone who needs to hear it. Subscribe to the channel so you never miss a new story. New videos drop every week, and every single one is built to make you think, feel, and see the world just a little differently. We will see you in the next one.